Hey there, cinematics! If you want the full, exhilarating, laugh-out-loud, heartwarming, action-packed journey of Free Guy, you've got to subscribe right now. Seriously, don't just watch a trailer, don't settle for a quick summary. On social media, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here, we break down the entire movie experience, scene by scene, joke by joke, twist by twist, so you don't miss a single moment of what makes Free Guy one of the freshest and most joyful movies in recent years. You want the real thing, not just the highlight reel. So buckle up, because this isn't just a story about a video game. It's about discovering who you really are, changing your world, and maybe, just maybe, saving it. Our story begins not with the hero you might expect, but with a world. Free City, a place that's always alive, always chaotic, always unpredictable. The sun is always shining, the people are always smiling, and the action never, ever stops. Free City is the digital playground for millions of players in the real world. A vast, open-world video game where you can rob banks, blow up cars, parachute off buildings, and collect power-ups just for the fun of it. But inside this city, living out his repetitive, sunny routine, is Guy, a bank teller with an ever-present grin, a bright blue shirt, and a perfectly ordinary life. Every day, Guy wakes up, says good morning to his goldfish, orders the same coffee with cream and 2 sugars, and heads off to work at the Free City Bank with his best friend Buddy, a cheerful and slightly nervous security guard. Their routine never changes. They greet their neighbors, dodge explosions in the street, and wait for the inevitable robbery to occur. See, in Free City, chaos is just part of the day. Players, called Sunglasses People, run wild, robbing the bank, shooting up the streets and doing whatever they want. NPCs, non-player characters like Guy and Buddy, just smile, follow their scripts, and try to survive until quitting time. But Guy is different. Somewhere inside, he's starting to wonder if there's more to life. He dreams of finding love, of making choices, of doing something extraordinary, even if he doesn't know what that means. One day, while grabbing his morning coffee, Guy sees her, a mysterious, beautiful woman in sunglasses, humming his favorite tune, striding through the chaos with confidence and purpose. She's not like anyone he's ever met. For the first time, Guy does something out of the ordinary. He follows her, and in that instant, everything changes. The woman is Molotov Girl, a player character controlled in the real world by Millie, a brilliant programmer and game designer with a mission. She's not just playing for fun. She's on a quest to find evidence inside Free City that its creator, Antoine, a sleazy, egotistical tech mogul, stole her code and used it to build his empire. With the help of her old friend Keys, who now works for Antoine's company Tsunami, Millie is hunting for proof that the original game she and Keys built, a beautiful, peaceful world called Life itself, still exists inside Free City, hidden beneath layers of code. Back in Free City, Guy's world is upended. He tries to talk to Molotov Girl, but she brushes him off. Desperate to impress her, Guy does something no NPC has ever done. He fights back during a bank robbery, steals a pair of sunglasses from a player, and puts them on. Instantly, his world transforms. He sees heads-up displays, health packs, bonus, points, and mission icons. Suddenly, he's part of the game, with the power to do whatever he wants. At first, everyone assumes Guy is just another player, a new, mysterious blue shirt guy, who's somehow leveling up fast without ever being violent or toxic. Instead of robbing, he helps people, stops crimes, and becomes a viral sensation. Social media explodes with clips of blue shirt guys' good deeds. Players and streamers around the world become obsessed, cheering for the one guy in Free City who just wants to do the right thing. Meanwhile, Millie is stunned. How is this possible? Keys, watching the code from inside Tsunami, realizes the truth. Guy isn't a player at all. He's an NPC who has somehow become self-aware. The artificial intelligence Millie and Keys built for life itself is evolving, inside Guy. For the first time, a video game character is alive, making his own choices and falling in love. As Guy continues to level up, helping NPCs and foiling players, he becomes a folk hero in Free City. Buddy joins his adventures, slowly realizing that maybe their world can be more than just a playground for chaos. But Antoine is furious. Free City is his property, and Blue Shirt Guy is a glitch, a threat to his control. He orders his programmers, including Keys and his friend Mouser, to shut Guy down, but Guy always manages to escape, learning, adapting, and growing more human by the minute. Millie finally lets Guy in on the secret. His world isn't real, but for Guy, that doesn't matter. His feelings are real, his choices are real, and he's determined to help her. With Buddy by his side, Guy embarks on a quest to find the hidden code that will prove Millie and Keys are the true creators. The mission takes them across Free City, from glittering nightclubs to rooftop chases, from wild car chases to daring escapes. Along the way, Guy inspires other NPCs to break their routines, dream bigger, and stand up for themselves. But the clock is ticking. Antoine plans to launch Free City 2, a flashy new version that will wipe the old game, and Guy, forever. As the servers begin to shut down, Millie, Keys, and Mouser race against time to help Guy reach the island, the last remnant of life itself hidden in the game's code. Antoine throws every weapon he has at Guy, including Dude, a gigantic, half-finished upgrade designed to take him out. In an epic showdown, Guy faces off against Dude, using his wits, power-ups, and the help of his friends to outsmart his enemies. At the climax, Guy reaches the island and triggers a live stream, revealing Antoine's theft to the world. Antoine's empire collapses, Free City is saved, and the NPCs are free to build their own lives. Millie and Keys reconcile, their friendship blossoming into something more. Guy, knowing he was designed with Keys' love for Millie inside him, finds peace in his new world, grateful for the chance to live, love, and be free. As the credits roll, Free City becomes a place of possibility, no longer just a game, but a world where anyone can be a hero. Guy smiles, Buddy by his side as the sun rises over a new day. That's the incredible journey of Free Guy Cinematics, a wild, joyful, and unexpectedly profound story about choosing who you want to be. If you want to experience every moment, every laugh, every level up and epic boss fight, don't forget to subscribe. Here, you'll never miss the full movie experience. Let's now dive into the fun details of making this epic movie. Ready? Film buddies. Every once in a while, a movie comes along that doesn't just entertain audiences, it changes the very DNA of the film industry and leaves its mark on generations. The journey from box office debut to cultural legend is never just about numbers or opening weekend records. It's a story of risk, reception, ripple effects, and the legacy that keeps growing long after the first credits roll. Tonight, let's pull back the curtain on how a single film's box office journey becomes an everlasting part of our movie-loving world. Imagine the anticipation. Premiere night, a packed theater, cameras flashing, stars mingling with fans, and a nervous director or producer somewhere in the wings, wondering if the film they've poured their heart and soul into will be a hit or a headline-making flop. For most movies, box office success is measured in ticket sales and dollars, maybe some awards. But for a select few, the opening becomes an earthquake, reshaping the whole landscape of cinema. From its very first screenings, this kind of movie turns into an event. Tickets sell out days, even weeks in advance. Newsreels and social media, or in earlier days, gossip columns and radio broadcasts, buzz with reports of lines stretching around the block, people camping out to snag a seat, and theaters running, showings late into the night just to keep up with demand. Sometimes the initial numbers are so staggering that they defy belief, breaking previous records, dwarfing the competition, and setting a new gold standard for success. In its own era, it might become the highest-grossing sound film, or perhaps even the top-earning movie of all time adjusted for inflation. But those numbers, as jaw-dropping as they are, only tell half the story. The real magic of a film's box office success is what happens after the first wave. Is it a one-hit wonder, or does it keep drawing in new fans? Does it spark a wave of imitators, or even an entire genre? The biggest movies don't just dominate. Their opening weekends. They become perennial favorites, returning to the big screen in special re-releases, drawing in new generations of moviegoers, and finding new life on home video, DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming platforms. The box office keeps climbing, sometimes quietly and steadily for decades, until the film's lifetime gross towers over nearly everything else, sometimes in the range of $1 billion or more, an amount that would have sounded like fantasy when the film was first released. But why does this happen? Why do some movies keep coming back, long after their initial run? The answer is in their ability to connect, with audiences, with critics, and with the world. These films often tap into something universal, a longing for adventure, a yearning for hope, the thrill of true love, or the courage to face our fears. They don't just show us new worlds, they give us stories we want to revisit, lines we love to quote, and music we can't stop humming. Box office power like this inspires, far more than just cash registers and sequel plans. It sparks a wave of creativity across the whole entertainment industry. Maybe it launches a flood of fairy tale adaptations, with studios racing to find the next great enchanted kingdom or unforgettable heroine. Maybe it sets the standard for an entire subgenre, whether it's superhero blockbusters, sci-fi epics, animated adventures, or heartfelt romances. The style, characters, and storytelling choices become the blueprint for years, sometimes decades. Future filmmakers study the film's camera work, its use of color and sound, its pacing and character arcs, hoping to recapture just a hint of that magic. These legacy movies don't just change the movies, they change the world around them. Merchandise explodes, toys, costumes, lunchboxes, soundtracks, posters, collectibles. For the first time, kids might be able to bring their favorite characters home, sing along with the songs, or imagine their own stories with dolls and action figures. Theme parks may spring up, or rides may be built that let fans step into their favorite scenes. The movie becomes a brand, a touchstone, a shorthand for wonder, excitement, or nostalgia. Internationally, these box office titans become true cultural ambassadors. They're dubbed into dozens of languages and played in theaters from New York to Nairobi, from London to Tokyo. In some countries, the film may be among the very first foreign or animated movies to reach mainstream screens, opening up new possibilities for what cinema can be. Stories emerge of children lining up in Paris, families in Brazil singing along to dubbed soundtracks, or audiences in Asia embracing characters as if they were their own folk heroes. In many cases, the film's imagery, lines, and songs become as universal as any fairy tale or myth, references that cross borders and generations. And that's just the beginning. The cultural impact of such a film is measured not only in tickets and toys, but in the imagination it sparks. Artists, musicians, writers, and filmmakers grow up dreaming of recreating that sense of awe. They cite the film as inspiration for their own careers, from Oscar-winning directors to animators just starting out. Decades later, documentaries and behind-the-scenes specials dissect what made the movie work, how the animation team achieved new heights, how the music was composed, how the cast brought timeless characters to life. Academics and fans alike write about its themes, its legacy, and its place in the history of film. For the company behind it, be it a legendary animation studio, a visionary director's production company, or a global media empire, the film's box office legacy becomes its cornerstone. Profits from one era fund the creation of new movies, new technologies, and sometimes even entire theme parks. The success proves to the world that animated features or fantasy adventures or any risky project can not only succeed, they can become the bedrock of an entire industry. The phrase "set the standard" isn't just marketing, it's reality. Every major release that follows is measured against the box office titan that came before. And for the fans, the legacy lives in every screening, every streaming marathon, every costume party or sing-along. Fans introduce their children to the movie, who introduce their own, turning movie night into a multi-generational ritual. Lines from the film become family jokes. Songs become lullabies. Heroes and villains become reference points for bravery, loyalty, kindness, and sometimes even a delicious bit of villainy. The story is retold, parodied, and paid homage to in everything from television to memes to fan fiction. Ultimately, the box office numbers become a badge of honor, but the legacy is something deeper. It's the emotional footprint left on millions, the way the movie shapes our dreams and imaginations. It's the spark that says, yes, stories matter, yes, dreams come true. That's why, film buddies, even decades after the initial premiere, some movies remain not just popular, but necessary. They remind us who we are, who we want to be, and what the magic of the movies is really all about. So, the next time you see headlines about another record-breaking opening, or you catch an old favorite playing for the 100th time on a streaming platform, remember, box office is just the beginning. The true legacy is written in our hearts, in our laughter, in the ways we retell and relive these stories. That's the real blockbuster, the one that lasts forever. Have you ever wondered if all that buzz around a blockbuster really paid off? Every time a movie breaks records for pre-sale tickets, has fans camping out for premieres, or fills the headlines with speculation, there's that million-dollar question. Did the hype actually deliver? Well, for the handful of true cinematic legends, the answer is a resounding yes. Sometimes in ways even the filmmakers never dreamed possible. The film's release wasn't just an opening, it was a seismic event. Critics who were once skeptical found themselves swept up in a wave of praise. Overnight, the movie wasn't just a hit with audiences, it became a darling of the press, the talk of Hollywood, and the standard by which all future animated, or fantasy, or adventure films would be measured. Reviewers called it everything from a marvel of storytelling to a triumph of artistry and heart. Newspapers and magazines printed stories about kids singing the songs, adults lining up around the block, and entire families returning for second, third, and fourth viewings. The critical acclaim wasn't just about the visuals or the novelty. It was about emotion. For the first time, animated characters weren't just funny or clever. They made people cry, gasp, and believe in fairy tales again. Seasoned reviewers, some of whom had never praised a cartoon in their careers, wrote that this film had moved the audience like nothing before. People talked about the chills they felt during certain scenes, the laughs that echoed through packed theaters, and the tears that welled up at the story's most poignant moments. Decades later, the movie continues to appear on critics' best-of-all-time lists, and its scenes are used in film schools as textbook examples of how to tug at the heartstrings. And if critical success wasn't enough, the commercial impact was downright revolutionary. Studios had long considered animation a financial risk, a sideshow to the real live-action dramas and comedies. But this movie's box office receipts proved, once and for all, that animated films could be blockbusters. Audiences didn't just buy tickets, they bought albums, books, dolls, and everything else the studio could license. The film became a fixture of pop culture, the kind of sensation that crosses borders, languages, and generations. Years later, its lifetime gross, often exceeding $1 billion when adjusted for inflation, makes it one of the most successful movies ever made. But more important than the numbers is what those numbers represent. Millions of people, young and old, finding something to love, something to carry with them long after the lights came up. The legacy was clear. The hype didn't just pay off, it changed everything. From that moment forward, animated films became a pillar of the industry. Studios greenlit new projects, hoping to capture even a bit of that magic. Artists, animators, and musicians dreamed of working on the next big hit. Audiences came to expect not just entertainment, but genuine emotion and artistry from every new release. But before any of that magic could reach the screen, there was an entirely different story unfolding behind the scenes. A story of risk, creativity, and a team determined to make the impossible possible. Pre-production and filming on a legendary movie are never as simple as just following a script. In fact, for this classic, the story started years before anyone saw a frame. It all began with a vision, a belief that movies could be more than spectacle, that they could be emotionally rich, visually dazzling, and unforgettable. The director or studio head behind this legend didn't choose their subject lightly. They searched for a story with heart, a tale that offered both grand adventure and intimate emotion, characters that could make audiences laugh and cry, and visuals that would linger in the mind long after the screen went dark. For some, like Walt Disney, it meant choosing a fairy tale that promised magic and danger, innocence and villainy, hope and heartbreak. For others, it might have been a sci-fi odyssey, a sweeping romance, or a coming-of-age epic. But the heart of any classic isn't just in the story, it's in how the story is told. From the earliest days of pre-production, the creative team debated every detail. The script evolved constantly. Scenes were added and cut, characters rewritten, jokes and gags tested and tossed. In many legendary films, the balance between drama and comedy is hard-won. Maybe the original draft was too dark, and new scenes were added for warmth and humor. Or perhaps the story was too light, and deeper themes were woven in for resonance. With this film, the supporting characters, be they dwarfs, animals, robots, or sidekicks, became more than comic relief. They became the emotional center, providing not just laughs but loyalty, grief, and growth. Casting, too, was its own adventure. Sometimes the perfect star was found through months of auditions. Other times, a legendary performance came about almost by accident. Take the case of the young ingenue who would give voice to the stories. Heroine, a teenager with a unique sound discovered through a bit of luck or a friend's recommendation. Maybe she was only 18, with little professional experience, but the moment she stepped into the recording booth, she transformed. Her voice became inseparable from the character. The director or producer, always with an eye for magic, knew immediately. This was the one. Sometimes, to keep that magic unique, studios put limitations on future work, wanting the character's voice to remain one of a kind for all time. Other casting stories are the stuff of legend. The villain, for example, needed a performance that could send shivers down the spine. A veteran actor or actress might bring decades of experience to the part, using every trick in the book to find the perfect sound. Maybe they created the character's unforgettable rasp or cackle through a bit of offbeat ingenuity, removing false teeth, standing on tiptoe, or even recording in a darkened studio to channel the role's menace and power. The results speak for themselves. A villain who's not just scary but iconic, their voice echoing in nightmares and costume parties for generations. Once the cast is assembled and the script polished, the real work begins. Pre-production on. A legendary film is a swirling dance of art, music, design, and technology. Animators or set designers fill sketchbooks with endless concepts. Musicians try out melodies and harmonies, searching for that perfect, unforgettable song. Costumes are designed, tested, and sometimes completely reimagined. Special effects teams experiment with new technologies, multiplane cameras, practical, illusions, digital wizardry, pushing the limits of what film can do. Every step is a challenge. Money runs tight. Deadlines loom. Sometimes the crew doubts it can be done. The creative lead, whether it's Walt Disney, George Lucas, James Cameron, or someone else, must keep the faith, inspiring the team to believe that every brushstroke, every note, every late-night rewrite is worth it. Studio bosses might visit, anxious about the budget. Test screenings reveal which moments soar and which need a rework. The process is exhausting and exhilarating, a labor of love that requires not just talent, but endless resilience. Sometimes, the crew has to invent entirely new ways of making movies. Maybe they pioneer color processes, sound design, or computer animation. Maybe they spend hours studying how light falls through trees, or how water ripples in the moonlight, determined to get every detail right. For some scenes, animators act out movements themselves, dancing, leaping, even pretending to stumble or trip, so the finished film will feel alive and true. And in the end, when the last scene is painted, sung, filmed, or rendered, everyone waits. Will all that hard work pay off? Will audiences and critics see the magic? Will the hype prove justified? When it does, it feels like a dream come true, not just for the cast and crew, but for everyone who ever believed in the power of stories. That, film buddies, is the real legend behind any legendary film. The hype is just the beginning. The true reward is the magic we carry with us, the inspiration, the emotion, the proof that imagination can change the world, one movie at a time. When we talk about movie magic, we're often thinking of the emotions, the story, and the characters that make us laugh, cry, and believe in fairy tales. But there's another kind of magic that happens long before the premiere. A magic woven out of pencil lines, camera lenses, paint, and the relentless creativity of artists who refuse to give up, no matter how tough the odds. The animation process behind a true classic is a story all its own. A tale of risk, invention, and the unstoppable drive to make something the world has never seen before. Let's start with one of the most groundbreaking techniques ever brought to animation: rotoscoping. If you've ever wondered why characters in classic films move with such natural grace, almost as if they're real people instead of drawings, rotoscoping is the secret sauce. The animators didn't just guess how humans walk, run, dance, or cry. They filmed real actors performing every key moment in the story, then painstakingly traced those frames to create lifelike movement. For the heroine and her prince, the team brought in professional dancers and actors, dressing them in costumes and filming every gesture, every spin, every flutter of an eyelash. The results speak for themselves. When you watch those iconic scenes, you're seeing real emotion, real weight, and a sense of life that's hard to believe was drawn by hand. But rotoscoping was just the start. The animation team knew that to make their film feel truly magical, they'd need to go beyond anything seen before. So, they turned to the rich history of European illustration, fairy tale books filled with intricate forests, cozy cottages, and moody castles. Artists pored over works by illustrators like Gustav Tenggren, Arthur Rackham, and Edmund Dulac, soaking up the dreamy storybook style. Their mission: to turn every background into a painting you could get lost in. The forest became a tapestry of light and shadow, the castle a place of mystery and wonder, and the dwarf's cottage a warm refuge from the world. Every scene was lovingly crafted to look like it stepped off the pages of a classic storybook. Of course, bringing such ambition to life wasn't easy. The production team faced hurdles that would make most filmmakers throw in the towel. One of the biggest challenges? Color. The existing paints just couldn't create the shimmering water, sparkling rain, and delicate glass effects that the story demanded. So, what did they do? They invented new paints and special effects on the fly. Artists mixed custom pigments, experimented with layering techniques, and even built their own tools to capture the look of sunlight dancing on water or the chilling transparency of a poison apple. Glass, water, smoke, every effect was a new problem to solve and a new frontier for their creativity. But the crown jewel of their innovations was the multiplane camera, a gigantic hand-built machine that changed animation forever. Imagine several sheets of glass stacked vertically, each painted with a different part of the scene. The distant mountains on one, the forest on another, the cottage and characters on the closest. By moving these layers at different speeds, the camera created the illusion of three-dimensional depth, a first for cartoons. Suddenly, the audience could move through the trees, soar above the rooftops, and watch the world shift as if it were real. The multiplane camera made the movie's landscapes and action sequences feel alive, immersive, and breathtakingly cinematic. But for every leap forward, there was a sacrifice. The sheer scale of the project pushed the studio to its limits. Money ran dangerously low. Some days, the future of the entire production, and even the studio, hung by a thread. Artists worked around the clock, catching naps under their desks or on rolls of unused animation paper. Coffee pots boiled all night, and laughter echoed through the hallways as teams of animators cheered each other on through exhaustion and frustration. There were moments when paychecks were late, or when the only thing that kept the lights on was the belief that they were making history. And that belief paid off. Every tear, every long night, every experiment that ended in disaster or discovery was worth it when the world saw the finished film. Audiences didn't just see a cartoon. They saw a world alive with possibility. A movie where water rippled, glass glimmered, and every movement felt as real as their own heartbeat. The multiplane camera's depth, the lifelike animation, and the lush, painted background set a new gold standard for the industry. Other studios raced to copy these breakthroughs, and the vocabulary of animation was forever changed. But perhaps the most remarkable part of the animation process is how the creative team's struggles became a part of the movie's spirit. When you watch that heroine step into the enchanted forest, you're seeing the dreams of hundreds of people, each determined to bring magic to life, no matter how daunting the journey. Every frame is a love letter to imagination, to risk-taking, and to the idea that the impossible is just something nobody's done yet. And that's why, decades later, the film's animation process is still studied, celebrated, and emulated. Artists and directors the world over point to the handcrafted scenes, the clever inventions, and the team's resilience as inspiration for their own work. The multiplane camera's influence can be seen in modern blockbusters and video games. The storybook style has shaped everything from fantasy epics to Saturday morning cartoons. So next time you're enchanted by a breathtaking animated scene or caught up in the way a character dances, sings, or cries, remember, that magic was made by artists who believed in pushing the boundaries, who weren't afraid to invent something new, and who gave everything to tell a story that would last forever. And hey, if you love hearing about the untold stories behind your favorite movies, the wild inventions, sleepless nights, and creative leaps that changed the world, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There are so many more behind the scenes, adventures, animation secrets, and movie-making marvels to explore together. You'll be the first to know every time we dive deep into the magic of cinema, share exclusive interviews, and celebrate the legends who brought our dreams to life. Thanks for joining us, Film Buddies. Keep imagining, keep exploring, and keep believing in the power of movie magic. Until next time, see you at the movies, and don't forget to subscribe for your front row seat to the wonders yet to come. Film Buddies. Now we come to my personal favorite part of any movie's legacy. The fans. No story, no matter how big the budget, how dazzling the animation, or how iconic the cast, truly comes alive until it's in the hands, hearts, and wild imaginations of the people who love it. Over the years, every classic film gathers its own swirl of fan theories, spirited debates, and favorite moments, the kind that get quoted on playgrounds, dissected on internet forums, and passed down. from one movie night to the next. Tonight, let's take a joyride through the world of fan reactions, theories, and unforgettable scenes that have made this film an eternal treasure. Let's kick it off with the magic of fan theories. Every movie worth its salt inspires a wave of questions, speculations, and what-ifs. Maybe it starts with a simple question. Was the prince real or just a dream? Theories like these pop up everywhere, especially around movies with fairy tale logic, surreal visuals, or poetic. Storytelling. Some viewers watch the movie and see the prince as a literal heroic figure, arriving just in time, braving dangers to break the spell. Others see him as more mysterious. Is he a symbol of hope, the embodiment of a dream, or even a figment of the heroine's imagination in her darkest moment? Fan essays and video essays go back and forth, freeze-framing every glance and gesture for clues. Then there's the classic question every group of friends has asked at some point. Which character is most like you? This is where the fandom really shines. Are you the grump who secretly has a heart of gold? The shy one who's more perceptive than people realize? The joker who brings everyone together? Social media quizzes, personality tests, and even whole convention panels have been built around the timeless question, which insert group here, dwarfs, friends, wizards, rebels, etc., are you? Fans argue, laugh, and sometimes get deeply philosophical about it. Maybe you're a mix, bashful in crowds, happy with your pets, a bit sneezy during allergy season. Every answer is a celebration of what makes us unique and what makes the movie so relatable, generation after generation. But for all the wild theories and fun personality debates, nothing brings a fandom together quite like favorite scenes. Ask any fan for their top 3 and watch them light up. The heart-pounding forest escape, the moment when the main theme swells, the villain's dramatic transformation, or that one funny scene that still cracks them up decades later. With some movies, it's the musical numbers, the ones that become family sing-alongs, talent show staples, and YouTube covers with millions of views. For others, it's the little moments. A look between friends, a bit of physical comedy, a perfectly timed gasp or giggle. Let's not forget the power of those transformational scenes. The villain's big reveal, the magical transformation, the first moment the hero stands up for themselves. For many fans, these scenes are life lessons, reminders that hope can win, that bravery is possible, that sometimes the monsters can be defeated. They stick with us long after the popcorn's gone. Of course, fan culture doesn't stop at watching and discussing. Fans remake movies in their own image, cosplay, fan art, parody videos, and elaborate recreations of their favorite moments. Conventions buzz with energy as fans compete to see who can capture a character's essence best. Some fans create new, extended universe stories. What if the villain survived? What if the sidekick had their own adventure? What if 2 characters, who never met, actually crossed paths? The creativity is boundless, and the best creators even acknowledge it in sequels, spin-offs, or little Easter eggs hidden for the sharp-eyed. And then there's the community, the feeling of belonging that comes from loving a story together. Movie nights, sing-alongs, themed parties, and endless discussions online all turn a simple film into a shared tradition. There are lifelong friendships and sometimes romances, sparked by a shared love for a character or a scene. People pass on the story to kids, friends, or even strangers saying, "You have to see this. It's the film that started it all." Fan comments are everywhere too. Scroll through YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or any fan forum, and you'll see wave after wave of passion. This movie was my childhood. My grandma showed me this, and now I'm showing it to my kids. I dressed as this character for Halloween every year until high school. Or, I learned the song on piano just so I could play it at my sister's wedding. These stories are the beating heart of a movie's legacy, proof that it matters, not just as entertainment, but as a touchstone for real life. There are also the critics turned fans, the teachers who show the movie to students, the parents who make it a tradition, the therapists who use its themes in sessions about hope, fear, and friendship. For every academic essay about symbolism or gender roles, there are 1,000 heartfelt comments about how the movie helped someone through a tough time, sparked their imagination, or just made them smile on a rainy day. And what about those wild, viral theories that sweep the internet? Was the villain secretly a tragic hero? Did a minor character have a secret double life? Did the whole story take place in a dream, a storybook, or another dimension? Fans gather clues, debate timelines, and craft elaborate cinematic universes that connect one film to dozens of others. Sometimes filmmakers play along, dropping hints, confirming or denying fan theories in interviews, or leaving it up to audience interpretation. It's all part of the fun. Some theories are serious. Is the happy ending really happy? What message does the story send about forgiveness, trust, or courage? Others are playful. Could the dwarfs beat the Avengers in a dance-off? Is the castle secretly a spaceship? Are the forest animals actually magical guardians? The best movies invite endless questions because their worlds feel big enough for a lifetime of exploration. When it's all said and done, fan energy becomes its own kind of magic. The movie that started it all isn't just a piece of history. It's a living, breathing thing, kept alive by millions of imaginations, 1,000 watch parties, and every single person who ever smiled, cried, or cheered at the screen. That's why. If you haven't seen this film yet, it's not too late to join the party. Find out for yourself why it's still magical, moving, and beloved, no matter how many years have gone by. Maybe you'll spot something new, start your own theory, or fall in love with a scene you never noticed before. And as we come to the end of our epic journey, it's time for the credits roll. But this time, it's not just a list of names. It's a standing ovation for everyone who made cinema history, the visionaries who dreamed up the story, the artists and animators who poured their souls into every frame, the voice actors and performers who gave characters their spark, the musicians who wrote unforgettable melodies, and the teams who invented new ways to make movie magic real. Special thanks go to the writers, directors, designers, and all the unsung heroes, the ones whose work isn't always visible, but whose passion shapes every moment. To the studios and supporters who believed in a dream when no one else did. To the fans, critics, teachers, and families who kept the story alive, sharing it with new generations and keeping its lessons fresh, and most of all, to you, film buddies. Thank you for being part of this incredible community, for your questions, your creativity, your laughter, and your love of story. You're what keeps the magic alive, what turns a film into a tradition, and what inspires the next wave of creators. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more behind-the-scenes secrets, fan theories, and movie love every week, don't forget to subscribe. This is your home for all things film. The analysis, the fun, the community, and the magic. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep rewatching, and keep those theories coming. The adventure never really ends, and you're always welcome here, where movie history lives on in every heart that dares to wonder, what if? And every fan who believes that, in the end, the magic is real. Have you ever wondered what really goes on behind the scenes of your favorite movies? Whether it's an animated fairy tale, a superhero showdown, a pulse-pounding thriller, or a sweeping historical romance, every movie starts the same way, with a wild idea and a dream to make something unforgettable. But how do we get from that first spark of inspiration to the blockbuster, cult classic, or hidden gem we love? Let's take a trip into the wonderful, unpredictable world of movie making, the journey that turns a script into pure silver screen. Magic! It all starts with a question, sometimes late at night, sometimes over coffee, sometimes scribbled on a napkin or texted at 2 a.m. what if? What if a toy could come to life? What if two strangers swapped lives for a day? What if the world ended tomorrow? The possibilities are endless, and the more impossible the idea sounds, the better. Once the story spark catches fire, writers huddle over laptops, whiteboards, and notebooks, weaving together plots, characters, and twists that will keep us on the edge of our seats. Draft after draft is written, scenes get swapped, jokes added, epic moments rewritten, and sometimes the movie you see at the end is completely different from the one that started it all. But a script is just the beginning. Next, it's time for the creative team to assemble. Producers hunt for directors, studios, and maybe even some deep-pocketed investors brave enough to roll the dice on a new vision. Directors bring their own ideas, style, and sometimes wild quirks to the table. Ever heard of a director who only wears red socks on set? It happens. Casting directors get to work, scouring the globe for just the right faces and voices. Sometimes it's an A-list star. Sometimes it's a total newcomer who blows everyone away in the audition room. Casting is its own kind of movie magic. Iconic roles have been decided by a single look, a perfect line read, or even a chance encounter in a coffee shop. Some actors land their parts after hundreds of auditions. Others get picked because the director saw them in a play, a TV show, or even a viral YouTube video. Chemistry reads are crucial. Sometimes the two leads meet for the first time and, boom, you can see the sparks fly or sometimes fizzle. Directors and producers watch, holding their breath because they know, if the cast doesn't work, the whole movie falls flat. Then comes the mountain-moving task of pre-production. The team scouts for locations. Should the epic battle happen in the deserts of Morocco, the streets of New York, or a soundstage in Burbank? Designers build worlds from the ground up, futuristic cities, haunted mansions, alien planets, or the perfectly ordinary living room where something extraordinary will happen. Costumers start sketching. Think superhero capes, 18th century ball gowns, battered leather jackets, or space armor. Prop masters fill warehouses with gadgets, furniture, and even fake food that looks so real you'll get hungry just watching. But wait, what if the world doesn't exist yet? Enter the digital wizards, visual effects teams and CGI geniuses who can summon dragons, build planets, or de-age an actor 40 years. Meanwhile, composers are working on melodies that will make your heart race or your eyes water. Choreographers invent fight scenes and dances. Stunt coordinators figure out how to crash cars or swing from skyscrapers safely. And storyboards? Imagine a comic book version of the whole movie, panel by panel, to make sure every explosion, pratfall, and swoon lands just right. And now, it's time to shoot. The film set is where movie magic becomes reality, and let's be honest, it's rarely as glamorous as it looks on screen. Imagine 100 people running around at 4 a.m., rain machines blasting, wind fans howling, everyone shivering while the script calls for summer. Directors shout through megaphones. Actors wait for hours, then nail their line in one take, or need 30. Someone's always fixing a light, a boom mic dips into frame, and someone else is running for more coffee. Unexpected things happen, often. Sometimes animals refuse to cooperate. Sometimes the weather goes from sun to blizzard in 10 minutes. Props break, costumes rip, and sometimes a whole day of shooting gets scrapped because a plane flew overhead at the wrong time. But this is where legends are born. That fight scene you love? It took a week of rehearsals and 12 hours of filming, plus more than one bruised shin. That teary close-up. Maybe it happened after midnight when everyone was exhausted, and the director played the movie's theme song just off camera to bring the emotion home. There's improvisation. 2. Actors ad-lib lines that become instantly quotable. Directors swap out whole scenes on the fly, or someone on set has a brilliant idea nobody saw coming. Movie history is packed with happy accidents. unexpected moments that change the tone, the plot, or even the ending. Some of your favorite lines or scenes were never in the script at all. For animated and visual effects-heavy films, the action moves from set to screen to studio and back again. Animators and VFX teams labor for months or even years to craft explosions, monsters, spaceships, or talking animals that blend seamlessly with live action. They tweak every detail: the way fur ripples, how light bounces off chrome, the exact shape of a dragon's shadow on a medieval castle. For musicals, sound engineers mix every note, and Foley artists create footsteps, creaking doors, and all those little sounds that make a movie world feel real. Meanwhile, editors are in a dark room, slicing and dicing film, or these days, bytes and pixels, searching for the perfect cut. Maybe the original ending didn't land, so they try another. Maybe the movie needs a new scene, so the cast is called back for reshoots. It's a puzzle with hundreds of pieces and everyone has to fit. Music ties it all together. Sometimes, a film's score is composed after the last scene is shot. Other times, the music inspires whole scenes. Composers and musicians pour their hearts into every note, knowing that the right melody can make the difference between a movie we forget and one we'll love forever. Some songs are so good, they win Oscars and become part of our lives. Finally, after months or years of hard work, the film is finished. There's a world premiere, sometimes glitzy, sometimes surprisingly intimate. Critics file their reviews, and the world gets to decide. Is it a hit, a flop, or the kind of movie people will talk about for generations? Sometimes, movies that bomb at first find new life as cult classics. Others break records and set the bar for what comes next. But whatever the outcome, every movie has a legacy. Behind every credit, every award, every viral scene is an army of dreamers. Writers, builders, actors, designers, techies, and more, who put everything on the line to create a story from nothing. Some movies change the industry with new techniques. Some create beloved characters and unforgettable worlds. Some inspire new generations to pick up a camera, write a script, or chase a wild dream. And you know what, film buddies? Every time you buy a ticket, stream a new release, or sit down with popcorn and your favorite flick, you're part of that legacy. You keep the magic alive. Every sequel, remake, and hidden Easter egg is a thank you for your laughter, your tears, and your cheers. If you've loved this peek behind the scenes and you want to keep riding shotgun on the wild journey from script to screen, hit that subscribe button. Every week, we'll go even deeper, sharing more wild stories, insider secrets, and creative hacks from every corner of movie making. From Hollywood blockbusters to indie miracles, we'll show you how the magic happens and how every movie is its own wild adventure. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep watching, and keep believing that the next great story could be just one what if away. This is your Backstage Pass, film buddies. Thanks for joining, and don't forget to subscribe for more movie magic every single week. Let's take a trip behind the curtain into the wild, colorful, sometimes chaotic world where your favorite animated movies are made. If you've ever wondered how hand-drawn sketches become the heart-thumping, eye-popping, laugh-out-loud wonders on screen, buckle up. The animation process is a mix of science, art, magic, and a little bit of movie-making madness. By the end of this journey, you'll never look at an animated film the same way again. Let's start at the very beginning. Imagination. Every great animated movie starts with a spark, a wild what if, whispered in a storyboard room, a doodle on a napkin, or a half-remembered fairy tale. Suddenly, the creative team is off and running, bouncing ideas back and forth, dreaming up characters, worlds, and stories nobody's ever seen before. Early designs are sometimes wacky. Maybe the hero was a talking fish before they were a princess, or the villain started out as a grumpy squirrel before turning into a menacing sorcerer. Nothing is too out there at this stage. Story meetings are full of laughter, heated debates, and gallons of coffee. Once the basic story and characters take shape, it's time for visual development, the moment when words become sketches. Artists fill entire walls with concept art, color palettes, costume ideas, wild landscapes, and even close-ups of how the hero's hair might bounce or the villain's cape should swirl. Some drawings make everyone burst out laughing, others get a hush of awe. The best ones go up on the inspiration board, the heart and soul of the movie's look. But wait, before we get to the animation magic, let's talk about movement. Characters aren't truly alive until they move like real creatures. This is where the process called rotoscoping swoops in. Back in the day, studios would hire actors and dancers, dress them in funny costumes, and film every twirl, leap, or even a dramatic hand wave. Animators would study these films, frame by frame, tracing over the actors to give animated characters weight, grace, and all the quirks of real life. It's why princesses glide so elegantly and heroes dodge, duck, and dive with such convincing realism. It's movie science in action. Now, those reference films don't just help with walking and talking, they inspire emotion. Ever notice how an animated character's heartbreak or joy feels so real? That's because artists don't just trace, they act. Sometimes the animators themselves leap around the studio, mimicking scenes, making faces in mirrors, or trying to nail the perfect "oh no" expression. If you've ever walked in on an animator pretending to sob or roar with laughter in an empty room, you've witnessed the secret sauce. But what about the world these characters live in? Here's where the background artists steal the show. For many classics, artists turn to European storybooks for inspiration. Misty forests, twisted castles, glowing cottages, and starry night skies. Every background is a work of art on its own. Some studios experimented with watercolors, others with bold acrylics or gouache, all to get that dreamy, layered storybook feel. There were sometimes debates. Should the forest be spooky or magical? Should the castle look inviting or intimidating? Every brushstroke, every splash of color is argued over and obsessed about. It's a painter's paradise, and sometimes a painter's nightmare. But here comes the big leap: depth. Early animated films could feel flat, like a moving painting. To change that, studios invented the multiplane camera. Imagine layers of glass stacked on top of each other, each with a different part of the scene painted on it. By moving these layers at different speeds, filmmakers created the illusion of swooping through a real 3D world. It was jaw-dropping in its day and still looks incredible. That magical camera move through the forest? Pure multiplane magic, film buddies. Of course, all this innovation didn't come easy. The animation process was grueling. Artists sometimes worked through the night, their desks surrounded by half-eaten sandwiches and crumpled sketches. Stories from the Golden Age tell of animators sleeping under their drawing boards, living off coffee and sheer stubbornness. Studios flirted with bankruptcy more than once. Every brushstroke was a gamble, every scene a leap of faith. And then there were the paints. Did you know the original color palettes just couldn't cut it for rain, glass, or sparkles? So artists invented new paints on the spot. They mixed pigments, experimented with layering, and tested their effects under different lighting. Some effects were so tricky, like the shimmer on water or the gleam of a magic apple, that entire teams devoted weeks to getting them just right. And don't forget the special effects crew. Want realistic water droplets? Try filming real splashes and studying them for weeks. Want lightning or smoke? That's hand-drawn, frame by painstaking frame. And when it comes to magic, spells, sparkles, swirling curses, that's a blend of chemistry, artistry, and sometimes just pure guesswork. Every successful shot is a tiny miracle. But none of this would matter without the cast of characters bringing the story to life. casting in animation is its own adventure. Directors and producers listen to hundreds of voices, actors, singers, even the occasional radio announcer or local stage star. Sometimes, a voice is discovered by accident, a friend of a friend, or someone just goofing around in the hallway. The moment that perfect voice is found, everyone knows. This is the hero, the villain, the comic relief. Some actors become so linked to their roles that they're forbidden from using that voice anywhere else just to keep the magic special. And once the cast is set, the real fun begins. Recording lines, singing songs, and improvising new jokes in the booth. Animators love to sneak into recording sessions, sketching faces, hand gestures, and all the little quirks that make a character unique. The synergy between actor and artist is electric. It's where the magic jumps off the page. The process is long, sometimes years in the making. There are moments of panic, months of frustration, and more than a few last-minute miracles. Sometimes, a whole sequence is redrawn days before the movie ships. Sometimes, a single frame, just one little smile, tear, or wink, takes weeks to perfect. But when it all comes together, something astonishing happens. An animated film is born, and the world gets a new classic. When the lights go down and the first frames flicker on screen, all the sleepless nights, wild experiments, and wild guesses melt away. Audiences gasp at the beauty, giggle at the jokes, and get swept away by the emotion. All that backbreaking work, every new paint, every camera trick, every acting lesson, has paid off in the only way that really matters. The story lives, and the characters leap off the screen into movie history. That's the real secret of animation, film buddies. It's not just about drawing or technology. It's about never giving up, about trusting the process, and about pouring every drop of love, humor, and imagination into the work. The hurdles, the hacks, the happy accidents, they're all part of the magic recipe. The next time you watch your favorite animated movie, remember, every twirl of a dress, every wink, every tear is the result of 1,000 creative risks and 1,000,000 tiny victories. If you love stories like this, if you want to keep exploring the wonders of movie making, the secrets behind the scenes, and the legends who bring our dreams to life, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Every week, we'll bring you more untold tales, artist spotlights, fun facts, and the kind of behind-the-scenes magic that turns movie fans into lifelong film buddies. So, until next time, keep imagining, keep laughing, and keep believing in the power of animated dreams. There's always more movie magic just around the corner. See you there, and don't forget to subscribe for your ticket to every adventure. Film buddies. If you've ever wished you could sneak into a movie studio and see what really goes on when the cameras aren't rolling, you're in for a treat. Every movie, from animated classics to superhero blockbusters, comes with a suitcase, full of hilarious, quirky, and sometimes downright unbelievable behind-the-scenes stories. Sometimes the magic doesn't just happen on screen, it happens in the chaos, mishaps, and lightbulb moments that unfold before action is ever shouted. Let's start with the wild world of naming characters. Something you might think is simple, but oh, you'd be wrong. In the earliest drafts of many movies, characters go through a parade of names that range from clever to cringeworthy. Take the Seven Dwarfs, for instance. Sure, we know and love Grumpy, Doc, Bashful, Sleepy, Happy, Sneezy, and Dopey. But at one point, the creative team considered names like Awful, Biggie Wiggy, Dirty, Cranky, Flabby, Jumpy, Snoopy, and even Shifty. Can you imagine? Picture the dramatic moment when Awful saves the day or Biggie Wiggy bursts into song. In live-action films, the same thing happens. Heroes almost called Max Power, villains nearly dubbed Dr. Evilish, and love interests, with names that get the whole writing staff giggling. But wait, sometimes it's not just names that change. Whole scenes and sequences get created, debated, and sometimes left on the cutting room floor. In the world of movie making, Not every idea makes it into the final product, but oh, the gems that nearly did. Animated films are notorious for this. There might be an elaborate musical number about dwarfs eating soup with wild, slapstick gags, or a tender montage of characters building something together. Maybe a bed, a spaceship, or a fort in the woods. In live-action flicks, you might miss out on a car chase that took weeks to film, or a love scene rewritten 3 times before it vanished altogether. The best part? Some of these lost scenes don't stay lost forever. Studios love to treat fans with bonus features on DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming releases, giving us deleted scenes, rough storyboards, or even full-blown musical numbers that didn't quite make the final cut. Sometimes these deleted moments become fan favorites, quoted and referenced just as much as the real thing. Die-hard fans have entire debates over which should-have-been scene was the best. And it's not just scenes. Sometimes even characters come and go like guests at a party. Many movies start with a supporting cast twice as big as what you see on screen. Maybe a wisecracking robot sidekick or a loyal pet goat got axed in rewrite number 12. Or maybe there was originally a rival hero, a nosy neighbor, or a trio of troublemaking squirrels who just didn't fit the story in the end. If you look closely at concept art or early scripts, you'll spot these phantom characters. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they pop up as Easter eggs or background cameos. Speaking of cameos, did you know directors, writers, or even crew members often sneak themselves into movies? It's true. Alfred Hitchcock famously appeared in nearly all his films. Stan Lee made his Marvel cameos legendary. Sometimes the voice of the hero's mother is the director's assistant, or the villain's evil laugh is a sound engineer goofing off between takes. Crew dogs, family members, and favorite baristas from the local coffee shop have all been immortalized in blink-and-you'll-miss-it moments. But let's not forget the wild inventions and on-set improvisations that become legends in their own right. Ever notice a character's strange hat, an oddly shaped prop, or a gadget that seems to come out of nowhere? Sometimes these are born out of last-minute panic or genius. Maybe the original set piece broke, so the props team duct taped together a new one from random bits found in the studio closet. Or the actors decided to add a new catchphrase or dance move in the middle of a take. Sometimes the most iconic moments in film history were completely improvised. Think Harrison Ford's famous "shoot" in Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Robert Downey Jr.'s snarky snacks in the Marvel films. Sound is another playground for creative chaos. The noise of a spaceship might be a slowed-down recording of an electric razor. Monster roars? Maybe it's a mix of a tiger's growl, a baby's cry, and the sound designer's own voice in the shower. For epic scenes, like a thunderstorm or a stampede, teams might stamp on gravel, snap celery, or shake metal sheets to build the perfect soundscape. Every squeak, bang, and crash is its own mini-movie, with Foley artists acting out scenes in a studio, often in fits of laughter. Let's talk wardrobe. Movie costumes often have secret superpowers or super problems. Sometimes an actor's heroic armor is just foam and duct tape painted gold. Or that elegant ball gown, it might be held together by 20 safety pins and 3 crew members, just out of frame. In action films, stunt doubles' shoes are painted to look like bare feet, and in sci-fi movies, the spacesuit gloves might be dishwashing gloves with LED lights. Sometimes actors improvise fixes themselves, using gaffer tape, double-sided sticky pads, or even staplers to keep their outfits together until cut is called. Food scenes are a world unto themselves. That perfect pie or roast might be made of painted foam and glue, and the drink that looks like fine wine, grape juice every time. For scenes that require multiple takes, props are constantly replaced. And sometimes actors eat so many slices of cake or bites of spaghetti that they vow never to touch it again. The best part? Food stylists are real-life wizards, using hidden tricks like mashed potatoes for ice cream or clear gelatin to make drinks look cold. And oh, the unexpected on-set disasters. Rain machines suddenly flooding the set. Animals that decide not to act on cue. A squirrel who steals the lead actor's lunch. There are stories of entire props going missing right before a big scene, of power outages at the worst possible moment, or of an extra accidentally wandering into frame, only to become a meme decades later. Let's not forget the Easter eggs planted by mischievous artists and directors. Maybe there's a hidden reference to another movie, a character's name scribbled on a chalkboard, or a subtle nod to a favorite band. Some movies have entire subplots running in the background, visible only if you watch closely. Animators and set designers love sneaking in their initials, birthdays, or in-jokes for sharp-eyed fans. And then there's the technology. Sometimes movies break new ground just by solving a crazy problem. Maybe inventing new paints for more vibrant colors, building a custom camera rig for a never-before-seen shot, or creating software that would become standard in the industry. Maybe the rain was just milk poured through a shower head, or a massive crowd scene was achieved by dressing up 5 extras in 20 different costumes. Filmmakers love to tinker, tweak, and hack their way to greatness. And of course, sometimes what's left on the cutting room floor turns out to be pure gold. Years later, studios dig up lost footage, alternate takes, or blooper reels that reveal just how much fun, or chaos, went into making the movie. Fans eat it up, swapping stories online and creating new legends from forgotten film reels. So, the next time you settle in for movie night, remember, behind every perfect moment on screen, there are 1,000 imperfect, hilarious, and downright brilliant moments that nobody planned. From last-minute script changes to costume fails, from Awful the Dwarf to surprise crew cameos, the story behind the story is always bigger, weirder, and more wonderful than you can imagine. And hey, if you love this kind of trivia, if you want more juicy, giggle-worthy, or jaw-dropping movie facts, make sure to subscribe. Every week, we'll share more secrets, goofs, and hidden gems from the world's most beloved films. You'll get your backstage pass to the magic, the mayhem, and the mischief that makes movie-making the wildest ride in entertainment. So keep your eyes peeled, film buddies. The next behind-the-scenes legend is always just one frame, or one deleted. Scene away. Don't forget to subscribe for more movie secrets, stories, and surprises every single week. Let's do what every movie fan secretly loves. Dig into the cast of characters and the amazing actors who bring them to life. Whether it's a story about royalty and rebels, heroes and villains, or a ragtag crew of misfits on an impossible mission. Every great movie is only as good as the personalities at its heart. So tonight, we're rolling out the red carpet for the main characters and the real-life stars who made movie magic happen. Every film starts with a central figure. Call them the protagonist, the hero, or the main character energy that pulls us in from the first frame. Maybe they're gentle and trusting, a symbol of innocence in a world full of trouble. Maybe they're bold, a rule breaker with a quick wit and a secret heart of gold. Or maybe they're just trying to get by, hoping the universe doesn't have any more surprises up its sleeve. Sometimes these leads are so well drawn and relatable that they become the template for characters in every movie that comes after, archetypes we instantly recognize and root for. Opposite our hero, every great story needs a little trouble. Enter the antagonist. Whether it's a jealous queen, a scheming business rival, a supervillain with a flair for the dramatic, or the dark side within, movie villains are often the most unforgettable characters in the cast. They're iconic because they're not just bad, they're fascinating. Maybe their jealousy is all-consuming, or their quest for power blinds them to everything else. Maybe they have a tragic backstory or a twisty motivation that almost makes you root for them, at least for a second. The best villains do more than threaten the hero. They force them to grow, to change, and to show what they're really made of. And then, oh yes, there's the supporting cast. This is where movie making turns into a playground for character. Actors, comedians, and scene stealers. Sometimes it's a wise mentor, a lovable sidekick, or a chorus of quirky friends, each with their own way of seeing the world. In a fantasy, it might be a group with hilarious names and even funnier personalities. A grump, a brain, a joker, a dreamer, and maybe the world's biggest sweetheart. Sometimes the supporting players are so beloved that they steal the spotlight. Think of the comic relief, the sassy best friend, the clever inventor, or the animal companion with perfect comedic timing. Every one of these roles starts with a script, but it's the actors who make them real. The magic is in the voice, the walk, the laugh, the look in the eye that says, "I am this character." In animation, voice actors pour every ounce of personality into their performance, sometimes influencing how the character is drawn or moves. In live action, a single line delivery, gesture, or stare can launch 1,000 memes or define a generation. Let's talk about those star-making, career-defining turns. Sometimes an actor lands a part and it's instantly clear. This is the performance of a lifetime. Their work becomes the standard for all who follow. Every princess, outlaw, or rebel leader who comes after will have to measure up. The voice becomes so distinctive, so full of life, that it sets the tone for decades of movie royalty. Other times, a legendary villain's cackle, glare, or transformation becomes the benchmark for every baddie to come. Producers, fans, and even rival studios can't help but compare. Sometimes the casting is inspired by pure luck. Maybe the hero's actor was found after hundreds of auditions. Or maybe they were discovered by chance. A recommendation from a friend, a voice on the radio, a bit part in a forgotten show. Other times, the perfect villain is a stage legend, or someone who's been waiting for a breakout role. And the supporting cast? It might be an ensemble of rising stars, seasoned veterans, or comedians known for their perfect timing and knack for ad-libbing. Behind the scenes, the ensemble often becomes a real-life family. On animated films, actors sometimes record together, bouncing lines off each other and building chemistry that shines through every scene. In live action, they might live together on location, share wild stories between takes, or pull pranks on set. Directors know how to bring out the best in their cast, letting them riff, improvise, and push the characters in new directions. Sometimes, a line that makes it into movie history was totally unscripted, a flash of genius in the moment. Let's not forget the unsung heroes, the voice coaches, dialect experts, movement choreographers, and stunt doubles who help every actor hit their mark. Whether it's nailing an accent, perfecting a dance move, or learning to sword fight, there's a whole crew behind the scenes making sure the characters feel real. Movie magic also means evolution. Characters and performances change over time. The shy sidekick gets braver. The villain reveals a hidden vulnerability. The comic relief turns out to be a secret genius. And sometimes, an actor's unique spin on a character transforms the whole story. A quirk, a laugh, or a way of raising an eyebrow that gives the film a spark nobody saw coming. For die-hard fans, character breakdowns become the stuff of legend. Who almost played the hero? What famous comedian auditioned for the villain? Was the sidekick originally a squirrel, a robot, or a grumpy old man? Are there alternate versions of scenes where the hero is even funnier, the villain even more terrifying? Or the ensemble breaks into a song we've never heard before? Directors love to share these stories in interviews, and fans swap theories, favorite quotes, and what-ifs for years to come. And when it's all done, when the movie hits the screen, these characters live forever. We quote their best lines. We dress as them for Halloween. We argue over who would win in a showdown, or which sidekick we'd want as our best friend. They become icons, shorthand for hope, humor, courage, or even delicious wickedness. The actors behind them go on to new adventures, but there's always a little of that character in everything they do. So next time you watch a movie, keep an eye on the cast, not just the leads, but every scene stealer, villain, and goofball in the background. Listen to the voices, watch the little gestures, and let yourself fall in love with the world they build together. If you love deep dives into movie characters, behind-the-scenes casting drama, and the wild stories that turn a script into legend, hit that subscribe button. Every week, we'll break down the best and weirdest ensembles in cinema, share the untold tales of your favorite stars, and uncover what really makes a movie cast unforgettable. It's time to talk about the secret ingredient that turns a great movie into an all-time favorite: chemistry. No, not the lab coat kind, though who doesn't love a good mad scientist scene? We're talking about the intangible, electrifying spark between characters and between actors that makes us laugh, cry, gasp, and hit rewatch for the 1,000th time. Tonight, let's dig into how on-screen chemistry transforms a movie from a simple story into a living, breathing world. Every film, animated, live-action, fantasy, or slice of life, depends on chemistry to pull us in. It's not just about clever lines or big set pieces. Chemistry is what happens in the spaces between, the knowing glances, the bickering that's really love, the perfectly timed joke, or the look that says 100 things without a word. Sometimes it's fire and lightning, hero and villain locked in an epic struggle. Sometimes it's a quiet warmth, found family, loyal friends, or a romance that unfolds in secret smiles. It's a magic that's hard to define, but impossible to miss. Let's start with one of the most beloved and universal dynamics in movie history: the surrogate family. You see it in every genre, from fantasy adventures to superhero squads, from animated classics to coming-of-age comedies. A lone hero, lost or in danger, stumbles upon a ragtag group of misfits. Maybe they bicker at first, one's a grump, one's a dreamer. One never says a word but manages to steal every scene. They squabble over chores, meals, or who gets to sleep where. But beneath the surface, a bond forms. They become a family, not by blood, but by choice. This surrogate family chemistry is pure gold for filmmakers. It gives us laughter and warmth, moments where the group comes together, protects each other, and even changes for the better. The audience sees themselves in the found family: the loyal friend, the jokester, the wise leader, the shy supporter, the wild card who says little, but means everything. And as the adventure unfolds, their chemistry turns simple scenes, like eating soup or building a bed, into some of the most memorable moments in movie history. Their inside jokes, shared glances, and unspoken loyalty turn the film's world into a place we want to visit again and again. The key to this chemistry? Diversity of personality and a script that lets each character shine. Maybe the group has a Doc who overthinks everything, a Grumpy who's all bark and no bite, a Dopey who's sweet and silent, and a Happy whose laugh is contagious. Or maybe it's an odd couple dynamic. One's meticulous, the other chaotic. Each person brings something to the table: courage, caution, humor, or a knack for problem solving. As the story unfolds, the friction gives way to love, and we see the family grow stronger with every challenge. Now, let's flip the coin. For every found family, there's often a perfectly matched pair of hero and villain, a good versus evil dynamic that keeps us on the edge of our seats. This chemistry is pure contrast: light and dark, hope and fear, innocence and corruption. Maybe it's the gentle-hearted hero facing down a villain who's all sharp angles and icy glares. Maybe it's a battle of wits or a clash of worldviews. The villain's schemes force the hero to dig deep, find courage, and rise above. Great. Movies know how to play these contrasts for all they're worth. Think of the quiet dignity of a protagonist facing a queen who radiates jealousy and rage. The villain might command the room with every entrance, wielding power through fear, charm, or cunning. The hero stands as their opposite, humble, kind, sometimes naive, but never backing down. The chemistry sizzles, especially when the villain is both threatening and fascinating, a force of nature the audience can't look away from. Sometimes the hero and villain are two sides of the same coin. The film drops hints: a shared past, a moment of vulnerability, a choice that sets them on different paths. Maybe the villain sees a bit of themselves in the hero, and vice versa. The best films let this dynamic simmer, giving us scenes where the villain tries to tempt or break the hero, only to be surprised by their goodness or resilience. The showdown becomes more than a battle of fists or spells. It's a clash of ideas, values, and hearts. Let's not forget the supporting cast, those unsung heroes who turn a good story into a rich, living world. Maybe it's a huntsman torn between duty and conscience, a character who gets only a few scenes but brings a burst of unexpected emotion. Their moment of moral conflict is a spark that changes the whole story. They stand at a crossroads, make a bold choice, and suddenly, the fate of everyone hangs in the balance. This kind of chemistry, fleeting, intense, surprising, sticks with audiences long after the credits roll. Or maybe the supporting player is a classic archetype: the wise mentor, the comic relief, the secret rebel, or the steadfast friend. These roles offer moments of humor, heart, and even heartbreak. The best supporting actors bring layers to their characters, turning what could be a simple plot device into a real, memorable personality. Maybe they step in just when the hero needs them most. Maybe they steal a scene with a perfectly timed joke, a look of worry, or a single act of courage. In ensemble films, these moments stack up, creating a tapestry of chemistry that's bigger than any one character. And then there's the romance, the dreamy, old-school chemistry of fairy tale heroes and heroines, or the slow-burn connection between two unlikely allies. Sometimes the prince is more of a symbol than a character, a wish come true, the embodiment of hope. Other times, the romance grows out of shared danger, quiet conversations, or a dance under the stars. The chemistry here is gentle, full of longing and sweetness, even if the characters barely share a scene. In modern movies, romance might come with a dose of realism or subverted tropes, but the heart of it is always the same: two souls who find each other against the odds. Of course, none of this happens by accident. Chemistry is a team effort, crafted by writers, directors, actors, and even editors. Sometimes it's there from the first read-through, with sparks flying in the rehearsal room. Sometimes it grows over months of filming as actors learn each other's rhythms and quirks. Directors nudge and coax, sometimes giving actors room to improvise, riff, or bring their own history into the mix. Great chemistry might come from years of friendship or from total strangers discovering magic on set. There are plenty of behind-the-scenes secrets, too. Did you know some actors stay in character between takes, building a real-life bond or rivalry with their co-stars? Others share in-jokes or rituals before a big scene, helping break the ice. Sometimes, casting directors bring in actors who've never worked together just to see if sparks fly, replacing or recasting roles on the spot if it isn't working. Movie history is full of stories about unlikely pairs who became legends, or ensembles who clicked so well they felt like real families by the end. And chemistry isn't always about harmony. Sometimes the best on-screen fireworks come from real-life tension, a bit of competition, or a clash of styles. A villain who terrifies the cast might also terrify the audience. Two leads who bicker between takes might create the sharpest banter. Directors know how to use that energy, channeling it into scenes that crackle with realism. All of this, film buddies, is why we fall in love with movies. Not just for the big moments, but for the little ones. The sigh before the first kiss. The laughter in the face of danger. The way a group of misfits goes from chaos to family, or the way a hero and villain circle each other like lions in the savannah. Chemistry is what keeps us coming back, quoting lines, debating ships, and dreaming about what happens after the end. And remember, chemistry doesn't stop when the credits roll. Fans keep it alive, writing stories, making art, cosplaying their favorite duos, or starting flame wars over which team or couple is best. The magic of on-screen chemistry becomes part of our lives, giving us courage, comfort, or just a reason to smile. So the next time you watch a movie, pay close attention to the connections, the sparks, the banter, the moments of trust or betrayal, the awkward pauses, and the soaring reunions. That's where the real movie magic lives. And if you love this kind of deep dive into character dynamics, behind-the-scenes secrets, and chemistry analysis for your favorite films, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we'll break down the world's best and weirdest movie relationships, answer your fan questions, and spotlight the moments that turn actors into legends. Film Buddies. Tonight, we're going beyond the plot, the jokes, and even the dazzling visuals. We're diving deep into what really gives our favorite films their staying power, the themes, the symbolism, and the cultural impact that reach beyond the screen and into our own lives. Every movie, no matter how whimsical or grounded, holds a mirror up to the world, asking us what matters, what scares us, what we believe, and who we want to be. So, let's roll up our sleeves and start digging into the beating heart of cinematic storytelling. Let's start with themes, those big, universal ideas that anchor every story. In movies across all genres and eras, one of the most enduring is the battle between innocence and jealousy, or more broadly, good versus evil. Sometimes it's as clear as a kind, trusting hero standing up to a scheming, envious villain. Sometimes it's more subtle, a tug of war inside a single character or a conflict that tests the hero's heart. The world is full of temptations and trials, but again and again, we return to the hope that goodness will triumph over darkness. This timeless clash is the reason fairy tales never fade and why modern blockbusters still borrow from their DNA. Innocence, in this sense, isn't about being naive. It's about holding on to hope, kindness, and faith in others, even when the world seems bent on crushing it. The villain's jealousy or rage isn't just about wanting power or beauty. It's about the fear of being left behind, unseen, or unloved. Movies let us explore these feelings safely, rooting for the hero, fearing the villain, and recognizing both forces within ourselves. But the best films go further, inviting us to look at the importance of kindness, friendship, and hope. In a world that can feel cold or divided, movies remind us that simple acts of generosity, sharing a meal, lending a hand, forgiving a mistake, are the real magic. The friendships we see on screen, whether forged in fire or laughter, give us a model for our own lives. Sometimes it's a group of misfits who learn to trust each other. Other times, it's a lonely hero who finds family where they least expect it. Again and again, stories show us that hope is contagious. When one character dares to believe in a better future, it lifts everyone around them. Another core theme is the struggle between fear and trust, and the courage it takes to overcome adversity. The dark forest, the menacing villain, the impossible quest. These aren't just obstacles for the hero. They represent the real-life challenges we all face: loss, rejection, heartbreak, or the fear of the unknown. The movie gives us a safe space to watch these fears play out and to see what happens when the hero chooses trust over suspicion, action over paralysis, and hope over despair. Every time the hero gets back up, faces the darkness, and finds the light again, we feel a little braver in our own lives. Now, let's talk symbolism, the secret language of cinema. Even the simplest objects can be loaded with meaning, and the best filmmakers use this to build worlds that feel richer, deeper, and more mysterious. Take the apple, for instance. Across countless stories, an apple isn't just a fruit. It's a symbol of danger disguised as sweetness, the seductive pull of temptation, and the moment when innocence is lost. Whether it's handed over by a smiling stranger or picked from a forbidden tree, the apple asks the question, what will you risk? For a taste of something new, what will you lose in the process? Movies use this symbol to heighten the stakes, reminding us that sometimes what looks most beautiful can be deadly. In our own lives, it nudges us to look beneath the surface and think twice before accepting things at face value. Another powerful symbol is the mirror. On the surface, it's just glass, but in film, the mirror is a portal to self-reflection, vanity, and even self-destruction. When a character stands before a mirror, they're forced to confront who they are, or who they fear they might become. For a villain, the mirror reflects their obsession with image and control, often spiraling into madness or despair. For the hero, it might be a moment of reckoning. Am I strong enough? Am I good enough? The mirror asks us to look inward, to question our own motives, and to remember that true beauty or strength comes from within. And then there's the cottage, or whatever place in the story feels like home. The cottage is more than a setting. It's a symbol of sanctuary, of found family, and of the safety that comes from being accepted just as you are. In movies, the cottage might be a literal house, a group of friends, or even a memory of happier times. It represents the world we build together, a place where we can drop our masks and rest from the battles outside. The hero's journey often means leaving the cottage, facing danger, and then returning changed, or sometimes building a new sanctuary from scratch. It's a reminder that home isn't just a place, but the people and connections we cherish. Of course, every film has its own unique symbols: magic wands, wedding rings, red shoes, broken swords, mysterious keys. What matters is how these symbols work together to create meaning that lingers long after the credits roll. They invite us to look deeper, to see the story within the story, and to find our own truths in the film's world. But here's where things get even more interesting. Film buddies. Movies don't just reflect the world, they shape it. The cultural impact of film is impossible to overstate. When a movie strikes a chord, its themes and symbols ripple out into fashion, language, music, and even politics. Think about it. A song from a movie becomes a hit on the radio. A costume inspires Halloween trends for years. A line of dialogue finds its way into everyday conversation. Or a symbol becomes shorthand for a whole generation's dreams and fears. Some films spark new movements or revitalize old genres. Maybe a fairy tale inspires a wave of similar stories, each with their own twist on innocence, jealousy, and the battle between good and evil. Maybe a superhero flick teaches kids to stand up for what's right, or a coming-of-age drama gives voice to struggles that were once kept in the shadows. Movies can change laws, challenge prejudices, or offer comfort in times of crisis. Films also build bridges between cultures, generations, and even strangers in a theater. We laugh together, cry together, and sometimes leave the cinema a little more hopeful than we arrived. Movies introduce us to new worlds, yes, but also to new ways of seeing our own. A symbol, like the mirror or the apple, might mean one thing in New York and another in Nairobi, but the feelings are the same. Let's not forget the power of reinterpretation. Over time, every great movie gets retold, reimagined, and reinvented. Audiences remix the story in fan art, cosplay, memes, and even in the names they give their kids. Directors pay homage in new films, and critics write essays unpacking every possible meaning. The story grows, changes, and comes alive in new forms. Themes of kindness, courage, and hope echo through generations, reminding us that the best stories are never really over. Of course, all this impact doesn't happen by accident. Filmmakers know they're shaping hearts and minds. The best movies don't just lecture. They invite us in, trusting that we'll find our own meaning. That's why symbolism is subtle, and themes emerge through action, character, and emotion. We see the hero share a meal, the villain gaze into the mirror, the group laugh in their cozy cottage, and we feel the lessons, even if we can't always put them into words. In the end, the magic of movies is that they let us feel themes and symbols, not just think about them. When the hero forgives, we feel lighter. When the villain falls to jealousy, we remember our own regrets. When friends gather around a table, we long for our own place in the world. These stories become part of who we are, guiding us, warning us, and inspiring us to write our own endings. So next time you watch a movie, any movie, look beyond the plot twists and special effects. Watch for the apple, the mirror, the cottage, or whatever symbols anchor the story. Listen for the big ideas. The battle between innocence and jealousy, the triumph of good over evil, the healing power of kindness and hope. See how the characters face fear, choose trust, and overcome adversity. And notice how those choices ripple into your own life. And remember, the cultural impact of these themes is alive every day, in the way we talk, dress, dream, and hope. The best movies aren't just entertainment. They're roadmaps, lifelines, and reminders that even in a world full of darkness, a little light goes a long way. If you love this kind of deep dive film buddies, if you want to keep exploring the big ideas and secret meanings behind your favorite stories, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we'll bring you more movie wisdom, spotlight the themes that matter, and help you see the world of cinema in a whole new light. If you really want to know how much impact a movie can have, just look at the way it echoes through the years. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers on cultural resonance. What happens when a story isn't just a hit, but becomes a part of who we are, what we dream, and even how the world makes art. Some movies don't just set box office records, they become the blueprint for entire genres, the spark for debate, the stuff of legends, memes, and endless reimaginings. Let's begin with one of the most powerful ideas in movie history, the archetype. In fairy tales and animated classics, the Disney princess ideal is instantly recognizable. Kindness, courage, a touch of magic, and a dreamer's heart. But this isn't just about tiaras and castles. The princess archetype, in its earliest and purest form, became a cultural anchor, defining what it meant to hope for something better, to sing in the face of trouble, and to believe in happy endings. It's no exaggeration to say that this template has shaped not just animation, but children's literature, TV, stage musicals, and even the way entire generations play, dress, and imagine themselves. The princess model is endlessly adaptable. Over the decades, we've seen it reinterpreted for new times. Sometimes gentle, sometimes feisty, sometimes longing to escape, sometimes eager to rule. Every new spin on the character, from rebellious warriors to reluctant heroines, traces its roots to that original vision. The cultural impact is massive. Costume aisles every Halloween, themed birthday parties, dance recitals, and an industry of dolls, books, and merchandise that makes billions each year. Disney Princess is not just a label, but a phenomenon that crosses borders, languages, and traditions. But cultural resonance doesn't stop with admiration. It thrives on remixing, parody, and reimagining. From the earliest days, movies that break through the public imagination get referenced, spoofed, and celebrated everywhere. Think of how many films, TV episodes, and even commercials have played with the idea of a poisoned apple, an evil stepmother, or a kiss that breaks a spell. Comedy shows put their own spin on iconic scenes. Artists reinterpret characters in graffiti, fashion, and even political cartoons. Animated shows wink at the classics in sly ways, and writers pay homage with clever twists on famous tropes. On the internet, memes explode. The mirror on the wall becomes the world's sassiest judge, while woodland creatures helping with chores are played for both laughs and awes. Then there are the endless reimaginings and homages. Stage musicals reinvent the tale for new audiences. Novels retell it from the villain's point of view. Fan art and cosplay breathe new life into every dress, prop, and moment. Movie studios across the globe take inspiration, sometimes as loving tribute, sometimes as bold reinvention. The result is a tapestry of cultural references, a shared language that connects fans everywhere. If you've ever heard someone say, "Someday my prince will come," "Fairest of them all," or "Whistle while you work," you're part of that global chorus. But perhaps the most lasting influence is on the animation industry itself. Before the arrival of the fairy tale epic, animated features were short, silly, and considered just for kids. All that changed overnight. Suddenly, studios saw that animated films could be real art, capable of telling deep, emotional stories, moving audiences to tears, and pushing technical boundaries. New studios sprang up. Animators became celebrities. Careers were made and lost on the ability to create living, breathing worlds from pencil, ink, and celluloid. The film's influence rippled through Hollywood and beyond. Techniques invented for one movie, like multiplane cameras, innovative sound design, and lifelike character animation, became industry standards. Storytelling changed, too. No longer was it enough to have a simple hero and villain. Now, movies needed character arcs, emotional depth, songs that mattered, and worlds you could get lost in. The bar was raised for everyone, from rival studios to filmmakers in other genres. The academic world took notice, too. Critics, historians, and media scholars have spent decades studying breakthrough movies as artifacts of their time and as living works of art. Whole books have been written about how they broke ground in gender roles, both praised for giving, heroine's agency, and critiqued for sometimes reinforcing old-fashioned ideas. Was the princess a role model of kindness and perseverance, or a relic of a time when waiting for rescue was the only path open? Academics debate these questions in classrooms, journals, and panels, fueling new interpretations for every generation. Technology gets its own spotlight in the story of cultural resonance. The breakthroughs required to make an epic animated film, from painting techniques to color processing, from voice acting to sound mixing, paved the way for everything that came after. Some of today's biggest blockbuster franchises and streaming series owe their existence to a handful of pioneers who believed you could make audiences feel with just paint and song. And let's not overlook the debates. The same movies that launch millions of dreams also spark a million conversations. Fans, critics, and creators argue passionately about gender and innocence, about agency and destiny. Is the message of the classic tale empowering or limiting? How have new adaptations updated the story for modern values? What do kids really take away from the happily ever after? These debates are a sign of life, the proof that movies matter and that their meanings evolve along with us. In classrooms, film schools, and living rooms, these conversations are more relevant than ever. Teachers use classic films to spark discussions about hope, jealousy, and the nature of good and evil. Filmmakers cite them as inspiration for character design, world building, and even business models. Fans turn every new release into a communal experience, sharing reactions, analyzing symbols, and keeping the conversation going for years. And this brings us to the film's ultimate legacy, its place as a cornerstone of the genre, the movie that made everything after possible. The life lessons embedded in its story are simple, but powerful. Kindness matters. Hope is worth holding on to, even when the world seems stacked against you. Vanity and envy destroy more than just the villain. They threaten the happiness of everyone around them. Friendship, forgiveness, and courage are the real magic that saves the day. Let's pause and think about what that really means. Every time a new fairy tale is told, every time a young viewer learns about loyalty or bravery, the roots stretch back to the original. When families gather for movie night and kids dress up as princesses or adventurers, the echoes of that first story are everywhere. The most valuable lesson is that we all have a little hero and a little villain inside us. The choice to be kind, to hope, to forgive is one we make every day. For the animation industry, the film's legacy is nothing short of foundational. Studios from Pixar to DreamWorks to the latest indie animators all trace their lineage back to the moment the world believed that cartoons could be cinema and cinema could be anything. The same spirit of innovation drives each new generation, always asking, how can we do it better? How can we make the audience feel something real? The impact stretches beyond the screen. The music is played in concert halls, the art is hung in galleries, and the characters march in parades and festivals worldwide. Some of the world's most famous landmarks, castles, parks, museums, feature homages to the story. New technologies, VR, AR, interactive games, keep reimagining the magic for each era. Academics and critics will keep debating. Parents and teachers will keep interpreting. Creators will keep remixing, parodying, and paying homage. But through it all, the core message remains. The stories that resonate are the ones that dare us to hope, to dream, and to reach for a better world. So, film buddies, when you think about the cultural resonance of a movie, think of it as a wave, one that starts with a handful of artists and dreamers, crests in theaters and living rooms, and then flows out into every corner of our lives. The best movies give us more than entertainment. They give us something to aspire to question, to celebrate. And as we wrap up tonight's epic journey, let's circle back to where we began. The lasting impression of a film that changed the world. The ultimate fairy tale movie isn't just a story about a lost princess or a triumph over evil. It's a reminder that stories themselves are magic. They outlive their creators. They adapt and grow with each generation, and they teach us what it means to be human. If you take away nothing else, remember the value of kindness and hope, the dangers of envy and vanity, the power of friendship and forgiveness. The real magic is in the choices we make, the people we love, and the stories we keep alive. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, Film Buddies. If you're hungry for more movie wisdom, behind-the-scenes secrets, and cultural insights, make sure to subscribe. Every week, we'll keep celebrating the films that change the world and unpacking what they really mean for all of us.